All right, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum, shalom, welcome, 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 everyone. We are back and we are live. Our topic that we're talking about today, our program, Die Nigger Die, to Imam Jamil, the revolutionary evolution of H. Rap Brown. And so, who was H. Rap Brown?
Is that a question?
Yes, sir.
H. Rap Brown is one of the most. If you wanted a snippet, a quote, as an activist, there's two individuals who actually stand out in my mind. One would be Eldridge Cleaver, with the Panthers, and then you had H. Rap Brown, a brother who loved to talk, hence the name rap. SNCC activist who, in many ways, how can I put this? Rap is going to be him, James Foreman, and especially Stokely Carmichael, and I'd be remiss if I didn't throw Willie Mukasa Ricks in there as well. These are going to be the driving forces behind the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee breaking away from what we know as moderate political leadership. SNCC is the bridge in every way from the idea of nonviolent civil disobedience to Black power. To understand that transition, you have to look at SNCC. And H. Rap Brown is a central figure in that occurrence. Rap is going to be the brother that in many ways is going to scare white folk coming out of SNCC, because he and SNCC were not supposed to go the way that they went. You have to remember that Marion Barry, your homeboy, Marion Barry was the first head of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. John Lewis is the head of SNCC when the March on Washington occurs. John Lewis, and this will sort of give you the temperature of what's occurring within SNCC. Lewis is going to resign and leave SNCC when Black Power is going to be debuted, even as a slogan, because he considered it to be nothing but empty rhetoric. And he ends up washing his hands of SNCC and becomes this American political icon. But rap is right there with Stokely. He's right there with Foreman, with Ricks and all of these guys, advancing an idea of Black power politics, that Black people need to solidify themselves in their positions before. You got to have, as Malcolm put it, you got to have some Black unity before you can have any Black-white cooperation. So they're the driving force behind that. They are, in many ways, the youngsters who were trained up within the civil rights movement, but eventually are going to break away and divert, because they're in many ways operating out of that great James Baldwin quote that Dr. King used as well, about who wants to integrate into a burning house. These are the angry children of the moderate civil rights movement.
Wow, excellent. So, and I didn't know that Marion Barry was the first leader of SNCC. So
When they come out of Shaw University, that's where they held their founding convention at. It's the alma mater of Ella Baker, who is, you can't talk about civil rights without talking about Ella Baker. She is the organizer for pretty much the entire civil rights movement. And she's the one that told SNCC not to align itself with SCLC unless they wanted to become sort of a auxiliary of Dr. King's organization.
Mm.
So they come out of Shaw, and Shaw University, out of all universities, out of all HBCUs, if you ask even people who attend and graduated from HBCUs, what's the HBCU in Raleigh, North Carolina? They can never answer that. When they hear
Mm.
HBCU, they hear North Carolina, they think about North Carolina A&T. They go through a whole litany of, but it's Shaw University sitting right there in Raleigh to this day.
Wow. Very, very interesting. I want to welcome Tranquil to the program. Peace and blessings, Tranquil. We're glad you're here. Twin Pyramid, peace and blessings, Twin. We're glad you're here. And everybody else in the chat who has not put in a little message in the chat, peace and blessings. We're glad that you're here and watching.
Welcome.
And
Go ahead.
again, our topic tonight is Die Nigger Die, to Imam Jamil, the revolutionary evolution of H. Rap Brown. And so was it Marion Barry, then Stokely Carmichael, then
No.
H. Rap, then
No. It would be Marion Barry. There's a part of me that wants to say that there's someone between Barry and Lewis,
okay.
but the order would be Barry, Lewis, and Kwame Ture, Stokely Carmichael. That would be the sort of the order of things, and things become very different within SNCC because SNCC has a rivalry going on basically between Stokely and Dr. King. They don't agree on the direction of the movement. So you have Dr. King still, and King is playing the long game.
Mhm.
He understands things, and King's older, so he understands the benefit of alliances. He understands the power of words and how words are going to be seized and they're going to be utilized either for or against the movement. King talks about and gives some limited support to the idea of Black power. But his concern about Black power was quite simply the connotation. He says, what's going to happen? He said, if Black power means that Black people will organize their resources, their political and economic resources to improve Black lives and improve Black communities, therefore improving the nation, I'm all for it.
Mm.
The problem is the connotation that you put Black and power next to each other. And King spoke about this extensively. He said the most unfortunate and shameful thing about it all is that the reason that Black power is so scary to white America is because of what they've done with white power. And they have this idea that Black folk are going to seek some type of retribution or revenge when they hear Black power. So Black power can't be solely about uplifting Black America. It has to be also about attacking white America. And that's coming directly from people who have historically abused their position of privilege and power.
Wow, very, very, very interesting. So with this group now, their relationship to the Black Panther Party is what?
SNCC?
H-Rap first.
Well, I mean, H-Rap is a part of SNCC, so you can't separate rap from SNCC. What happens is the Panthers have a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And that problem is that they have built the organization atop what Karl Marx refers to as the lumpen proletariat, the prolats.
Mm-hmm.
The prolats are, to use contemporary language, they are the brothers on the block. These are the cats that hang out. They sell drugs. They probably carry guns. These are poor and working class black folk. And what Karl Marx says about and this is his warning, what he says about the lumpen proletariat is this, that they are so poor that they can't be loyal. He says that they're always in contact with the police, creating these opportunities for them to be turned. And if you look at what happens with who's the brother, William Gloves O'Neill, who worked with the Chicago Police Department and the FBI, that he's the one that gave the floor plan that led to the murder of Fred Hampton in Chicago. O'Neill had got picked up for a joyriding charge and didn't want to go to prison. So they went ahead and they were able to flip him and turn him into a not just an informant, but an agent provocateur. So here you have the Panthers who are trying to start this organization. Who are they? Who's going to join the Panthers?
Mhm.
It's not going to be. And Huey wanted black collegians to join, but they refused to join. At that moment, when you really think about it, because the Panthers are formed on October 15th, 1966. At that moment, Brown is 12 years old, meaning Brown versus Board of Education. So school integration has happened during that time. You've had enough time for a kid to have been in kindergarten to be graduating from high school at a quote unquote integrated school. And that's not to mention black collegians who go to PWIs. We talked last show about how their priorities change. They're looking at an opportunity to integrate the American dream and get some of these monetary and material benefits that the nation offers to its educated class. They're not coming with the Panthers.
Mm.
They're just not. They're not going to do it. I mean, if you were to go on a college campus, a major college campus today, and offer them black students there an opportunity, if you went on a college campus today and offered them an opportunity to join the Nation of Islam, how many of them would do it? Very few, because they're looking at what? Going to work for a white corporation to make some money with them. They're not looking at building a black nation. Okay, you may have a few, but not the majority of them. So here you have an organization that is built on the brothers on the block. And you got to remember a huge part of the Panthers cadre. These are gangbangers. These are cats who were already carrying guns. Okay. And we have these memoirs that have these Panthers are saying, so I get to continue to carry my gun and patrol the police? Sign me up. It's not something that collegians would be looking to do.
Mm.
So what's going to end up happening is that in 67, the Panthers are going to get national, if not international, notoriety because of the state capitol protest. It's the first time people outside of Cali became aware of the Panthers. And so you have all these different groups that are going in these cities who are trying to become Panthers. Some of them are not even affiliated with the Panthers. They're just trying to replicate what they saw, what they think they saw. And so this leads to, and Huey's going to be involved with the shooting that leads to the killing of Officer John Fry in 67. In October, I want to say it's September, October of 67, almost a year to the date of the Panthers founding. He's in jail, locked up. And Huey recognizes that the Panthers are in many ways unbalanced. And it's just what it is. They need some brothers and sisters who are able to, in every way, balance the party. Because now that the Panthers are so popular, they need people who can create training manuals.
Right.
Brothers off the block can't create no training manual. Okay, so you need what they referred to during that time as people with bourgeoisie skills, people who've been
Okay.
to school, people who can write, people who can, do these different things. Where do you get them from? Where do you get a group of Black collegians who are activists and are in many ways trying to change the world? Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, because this is 67, 68. They've already divorced themselves from Dr. King. They divorced themselves from the idea of nonviolence. They've been talking about Black power for years now. Stokely comes out as this flaming cultural nationalist, Pan-Africanist even. Rap is there, caught up in that. And we have this great moment, and we actually have footage of this, where they're going to draft James Foreman, Stokely, and H. Rap Brown into the Black Panther Party for self-defense. The problem with that is quite simply the direction that the Panthers are, and this is the danger of snippets. Like people get a second snippet and they think they know about you.
Right.
This is going to be the problem with it. That Stokely is a Pan-Africanist who doesn't want to work with white people. The Panthers are heavily in bed with white people. One of the jokes that the Panthers would often talk about is quite simply, you go to a Black Panther Party rally, it's more white folk there than Black folk. Because the Panthers have relationships. You got to remember, they're coming out of the Bay Area, Cal, Berkeley, Stanford. So they're not, and they're not Black in the way that people think they're Black. The Panthers are red, meaning they're reading Mao Zedong, they're reading Che Guevara, they're reading Fidel Castro, they're reading Malcolm. Their argument is less a racial argument and more of a class-based argument. And that's a place where so many Black organizations haven't gone. And to this day, they don't go there. Our analysis is almost always racial only. And we're not dealing with the idea of forging alliances with poor white groups. And the Panthers had alliances with the Peace and Freedom Party, the SDS, the Young Patriots, the Young Lords, all these interracial groups. It's probably best encapsulated by, ironically, Fred Hampton that we were talking about earlier, when Hampton says Black power for Black people, brown power for brown people, red power for red people, yellow power for yellow people, white power for white people, all power to the people. You wouldn't hear a Black nationalist group talking about white power for white people, let alone alliances with them. So it doesn't fit
Okay.
where Nick is at and where Stokely is at in his mind. It's not a good fit for the Panthers. And things came to a head actually at Huey P. Newton's birthday party, where Stokely doesn't want the white boys, the Peace and Freedom Party, to even be on the stage.
Mm.
And the Panthers are like, oh, they're gonna be on the stage
Right.
because they're central to saving Huey's life. Huey is still on trial. And it's a whole other discussion when you're talking about the selection of Charles Gary, a white attorney, to represent Huey. Black people wanted a Black attorney to represent Huey purely for symbolic reasons. And the Panthers are like, yo, Huey's life is at stake. We need to get the best attorney that we can possibly get. And it was Charles Gary. And he kept Huey from being executed.
Mm.
They was trying to kill that Negro.
Wow. I think one of Rap's quotes that is very defines him. I think where it says, "Violence is as American as cherry pie."
Yeah.
Yeah. And in the picture that we see of him sitting down, and he has the bandage up over his head.
Mhm.
It seems like almost all the pictures I see him with, he has a bandage on. Um, did this his pointing out the hypocrisy of America and they're telling people to be nonviolent when violence is always used by America on other people. How did the media world deal with his saying stuff like that?
Well, I mean, you have to really think that for Black Power and really for identity politics at that time, they make perfect. They they sell papers. It's
Mhm.
kind of like the idea of getting clicks now from a sensational title. People will click on that to see if, see what's going on and things like that. Same thing with newspapers of that day. So when you have someone like Rap saying all of these outlandish things, they're going to put that in the paper. Now, how will it be received by middle America? They're going to hate it. You have to remember that if we're talking about 67, 68, that's the exact same time that Richard Milhouse Nixon is going to win the White House, running on a platform of law and order. It's the exact same time. No one is above the law, no one is below the law, and let's enforce the law, which is a completely different message than what we got with Nixon in 1960 when he lost to JFK in that presidential election.
Mm, wow. And do you believe that the white folks believe when he said black folks built America? If America don't come around, we're going to burn America down. Do you believe they were believing what he was saying?
I believe their racial paranoia made them believe that.
Mm,
That here you have a wild Negro. Did you hear what he said? Did you? And what would betrust that and really support it is that Watts explodes in 65. American cities are going to explode every single summer for over a decade.
mm,
And it's always during the summer. And the US government, one of the very funny quips about US government in their studies is they spent, I think it was $15 million trying to figure out why are Negroes rioting. And what they came up with is one of the most ludicrous things in the world. They said the only commonality in all of these racial explosions, it's not poverty, it's not police brutality, it's not any of those things. It's they're all during the summer.
mm,
And Negroes are apparently getting hot, and when they get hot, they become irrational. So,
mm,
what's the response? How do we deal with that? We put
mhm,
swimming pools in inner cities. And when you look at the inner city areas that have swimming pools to this day,
mhm,
that's where it came from. Instead of a watering hole where you would go out somewhere far off and jump in the water, no, they're gonna put a pool right there. So when your homeboy get that fever on him, take him over
mm,
there to the pool, submerge him until he cool off and his right mind come back.
mm,
So
mm, mm,
the idea of what rap is saying is shocking and it scares people who are already afraid. That's the problem. If
mm,
you're already afraid and somebody says boo, you're getting ready to jump out of your skin.
mm.
Now, as to if he could have done that, no, rap them can't do that. They're not gonna burn the nation down. You're
Right,
gonna have a few, skirmishes every summer.
right.
But that idea of rap saying that, we're gonna burn the nation down, that's yet another moment, an example of him not fitting in with the Panther message. Because Huey
Mm,
P. Newton is very clear. He denounces riots. He says the only thing that comes out of riots is that you make life more difficult for the grandmothers and the grandchildren that they're raising, because
Mm,
now the stores and the services that they need to get access to, a drugstore, a grocery store, what have you, you made that much more difficult. And it's not really a serious, organized political statement.
mm. Wow. And so, as you said, he succeeded Stokely Carmichael over at SNCC. Now, some of the things that I found that said that he was the Minister of Justice for the Black Panther Party. Is that true, or that was
Yeah, yeah, they got drafted into the Panthers, and they were
okay?
given these ceremonial titles and
Okay,
things
okay.
like that. The relationship of the three SNCC leaders with the Panthers, it
Mm,
didn't last 3 months.
mm,
It didn't last long at all, because you have this, and you have to think about what is the mentality of
mhm,
the brothers who are in the Panthers. How are they going to look at SNCC coming in and basically absorbing the Panthers, taking over the Panther leadership? That rubs them the wrong way. And many
mm,
of them are saying, and they're correct in this assessment, we need to be absorbing SNCC, because what is SNCC doing in 68? You got the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act. What is your relevance now? What are y'all doing? And they're absolutely positively correct. The new game, the new argument is going to be Black power. Now, as to if that's going to come through working through white corporations and institutions,
mhm,
or overthrowing the government, which is what the Panthers are talking about, that's to be determined. But SNCC is over. SNCC has been in existence for over 10 years. And you won't you talking about them taking us over? So
mm,
they're not going, that's not, that ain't gonna work. That ain't gonna work. And how do you discipline the Panthers if you from SNCC? How you gonna
mhm.
discipline? What, you gonna make them go stand in a corner?
Right.
How do you discipline them? You
Mm,
can't. They ain't afraid of you. And
mhm,
in the world that they come from, you're it's about power.
mhm,
I'm
mm,
typing in, see if I can pull up this an excerpt from Elaine Brown, who was
mhm.
the only female head of the Black Panther Party. Uh, Something about Rita's sample. I don't think I have my copy of The Taste of Power even here. But here's how, and this sort of kind of reiterates what it is that I'm talking about. The
Mhm.
type of people who were in the Panthers, and Elaine Brown is an educated woman, and so she's not even as bad as some of them are. But let me see if I can share my screen, if it'll work. Yeah, there we go. This is an excerpt of A Taste of Power. And let me get to the very start of it. So just sort of to emphasize what it is that we're talking about. This is what she says in A Taste of Power. Let's see if I can make this larger. Of course, it would go back. Okay. I have all the guns and all the money. I can withstand challenge from without and from within. Am I right, comrade? Larry snapped back his answer to my rhetorical question, right on. His muscular body tilted slightly as he adjusted the 45 automatic pistol under his jacket. I was standing on the stage with him at my side. Several of the Key brothers from the security squads were standing just in back of us. To my left, I could feel Big Bob, Huey Newton's personal bodyguard, all 6'8" and 400 pounds of him. In front of me, extending all the way to the back of the auditorium, were several hundred other members of the Black Party, a sea of predominantly male faces. They were Black men and women from the party's central committee and from various local leadership cadres from the west side of Chicago, from North Harlem, New Orleans, Los Angeles, D.C., and elsewhere. They had come to Oakland this August of 1974 at my command. I watched them carefully, noting that no one moved in response to my opening remarks. Here I was, a woman, proclaiming supreme power over the most militant organization in America. It felt natural to me. I had spent the last 7 years as a dedicated member of the Black Panther Party, the last 4 at Huey's right hand. I haven't called you together to make threats, comrades. I've called simply to let you know the realities of our situation. The first is Comrade Huey is in exile. The other fact is I'm taking his place until we make it possible for him to return. I'm telling you this because it's possible. Some of you may balk at a woman as the leader of the Black Panther Party. If this is your attitude, you better get out of the Black Panther Party now. I'm saying this also because there may be some individuals in our ranks who have private ambitions and, in Comrade Huey's absence, may imagine themselves capable of some kind of coup. I paused again. No one spoke. Cocking my head, I continued in the manner I knew was required. If you are such an individual, you'd better run and fast. I am, as your chairman, the leader of this party. As of this moment, my leadership cannot be challenged. I will lead our party both above ground and underground. I will lead the party not only in furthering our goals, but also in defending the party by any and all means. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, so you consider that, and what do you do with that? You think that some college students going to be able to discipline these guys
Mm,
and girls? No, not at all. So the idea of Snick taking over the Panthers, the idea of Rapp, Foreman, and Stokely having real positions within the Black Panther Party, it's not really true. It had no impact whatsoever upon the Black
mm,
Panther Party, none whatsoever.
mm.
Caused some confusion, caused some anger within the party, but they can't control the Panthers. Huey can't control the Panthers. To be honest with you, the only person that could really control the Panthers is Bobby Seale.
And where was he at during that time when she was saying all that?
Seale was in jail for a while. Um, by that time, when Elaine Brown takes over, the party is going to be largely defunct.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, yeah. If you ask him, Bobby Seale will tell you to your face he's the one that ended the Black Panther Party.
Mm-hmm.
When he quit, the soul of the party left.
Mm, mm, mm.
So you're not dealing with what you think you're dealing with. Um, yeah, yeah. You're not dealing with what you think you're dealing with. You know.
Mm. So is this true what our brother Jughead from the UK is saying, that Elaine Brown set up Bunchy Carter and caused trouble all over the Black Panther Party by sleeping with male members of the Black Panther Party?
Ah, let me measure what it is that I'm gonna say about
Uh-uh.
yeah, because I know Elaine Brown. Um, I actually brought Elaine Brown to my university. I brought Bobby Seale as well. I thought I was gonna have to beat Bobby Seale up that day. That was a bad moment for me and Bobby Seale. But to deal with the first part with Bunchy Carter, and brother, we can't talk about Bunchy Carter without mentioning John Huggins.
Mm-hmm.
There were 2 Panthers who were killed that day, and I'll try and focus on that incident that happened. What's going on? Number one, this is in Oakland. This is on the UCLA campus. This is LA. And in many ways, it's different from Oakland. Okay. And before I go forward, let me say this about Bunchy. Bunchy Carter is what they would refer to as a gang lord. He's the
Mm.
head of the Slausons,
Okay.
and he's a weird cat that somebody needs to do a biography of. Well, I don't call him weird. He's a different type of cat. Can you imagine a gang leader, a gang lord, as some people refer to him as, showing up at a party, having the Slausons go up in the party, make them turn the music off. Can't nobody dance, can't nobody do anything during this time because Bunchy's about to read some poetry. And he would get on stage and he would start reading his revolutionary poetry. Okay. So that's the type of cat you're talking about. But on this day, and you have to remember, we have to contextualize it. The Panthers have a arch nemesis, a rival group called Us. Us says that Us stands for us versus them. The Panthers said no, it don't. Us stands for United Slaves. Okay, now they didn't name themselves the United Slaves, but that's sort of a derogatory way of talking about them. Ron Karinga, Milana Karinga, Ron Everett, whatever name you want to use for him. He's the brother that created Kwanzaa. Okay, Kwanzaa's his thing. Okay, they're cultural nationalists who speak a strange tongue and all that type of thing. But they're fighting over it's sort of, it's not true that they're fighting over it. UCLA has decided that they're going to start a African American or Black Studies program. Milana Karinga thinks that he should head it. The students at UCLA apparently don't. They asked the Panthers to come as a show of force to back them up as they tell this fool that he ain't gonna head the program. Things are said. Elaine Brown was, and I'm trying to synthesize a bunch of the different stories because there's about 30 different versions of the story. The most popular one is that Elaine Brown was slapped by a member of Us. Elaine goes to tell John Huggins, who I think that she was romantically involved with. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Bunchy. I think it was John Huggins. And Bunchy and John Huggins go to confront Us about slapping Lane. They're both shot and killed. Okay. And two guys are arrested there by the name of George and Larry Steiner. Okay, and this is a part of the story I rarely talk about, but this is going to trip you out. Okay, how small the world is. George and Larry Steiner are going to be arrested, and what we're told is that George and Larry Steiner actually escaped from a maximum security prison. Okay. That's the story that's was published in the newspapers and all of that. Well, when I was coming out for a job talk at Prairie View, where I worked at PV, I'm getting on a plane and I hadn't flown much. I would get nervous when I was flying, what have you. And as I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the other people who are waiting to get on the plane. There were two brothers who were there getting on the plane with me as well. I said to God, I said, Lord, please let me talk. Let me sit next to one of the brothers so I can talk my way through this whole flight. Lo and behold, I sat next to one of them. Okay. This brother talked to me about what the school I was going to interview at, what it meant to the people out here. He said, "Nah, it's big time out here. You know, this, and that, blah, blah, blah." Brother out of
Mhm.
Columbus, Ohio. So we end up finishing with the flight. We had a wonderful conversation, and we talked the entire time. We actually knew some of the same people from Columbus,
Mhm.
and he said, "Listen, take my number down." He said, "And when if you take the job out here, you go ahead and give me a call." I end up accepting the job offer, come out here, and I had wrote I the only way I knew I wouldn't lose his number was I wrote it inside of one of my favorite books.
Mhm.
And so I'm moving into my office and the book fell and it opened and his name and number was, I said, "Man, I'm gonna call this brother." So I ended up calling him and he tells me, he said, "Oh man, you're calling me at a really good time. I just got married." He said, "And we're gonna have sort of like a wedding party
Mhm.
that, you know," and he said, "I would love for you to come because I don't have any family out here. Her family is out here." He said, "You'll literally be my only guest." So
Mm.
I go there, have a good time, meet all of these people, and one of his now brother-in-laws comes up to me, and he says, "So what do you where do you work at?" I was like, "Yo, I work at PB." And he said, "So what do you study?" I said, "Man, I study the Black Panther Party." And he says to me, he said, "You know what, man? I got some cousins who were Panthers." He said, "Yeah, yeah, 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 yeah. They were Panthers, out in LA." He says, "You know what? Nah, I don't think that's right." He said, "Let me go get my older brother." And he went and got his oldest brother. Okay.
Mhm.
He comes in, he said, "Nah, man, that's fool. Don't know what you're talking about. They wasn't Panthers. They got arrested for killing two Panthers. But
Oh.
but they didn't do it." And I said, "Huh?" He said, "Yeah, they killed two Panthers out in LA." I said, "John Huggins and Bunchy Carter?" He said, "Yeah, yeah." He said, "You know your stuff, man, blah, 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 blah." I said, "Are you talking about George and Larry Steiner?" And he said, "Yeah, them is my cousins, man." Okay.
Wow.
He said, I'm Paul Steiner. I said, "Get out of here." I said,
Mm.
"What happened to them?" And he said, "Oh, you know the story, huh?" I said, "I don't know what happened to them, but what happened?"
You're right.
He said, "Well, they were arrested and they were ultimately tried and convicted and they were put in he said, maximum security prison." I said, "Yeah, he said, "But what people don't know is that my aunt and uncle went there and lived with them for about 2 weeks." He said they were all living in the prison together.
What?
Yeah. And he said, and some white men, some government officials came one night and said, "Listen, that's it. It's over now." Said that he said his aunt and uncle had to leave that night. And George and Larry, he said within 2, 3 days, breaking news, George and Larry Steiner escaped from maximum security prison. He says now he gave me the nation that they went to. He said they sent them, the US government sent them to South America. And the deal was, if y'all stay here, never, we'll never pursue you. We'll never, you're free. Just stay all, just don't come back.
Mm.
Well, one of them came back because he felt that he wanted to, I don't remember if it was George or Larry, he wanted to clear his name. Okay.
Mm.
And I'm like, really? He said, "Yeah." He said they arrested him right at the airport. We never visited him. We've never heard anything from him. Said, "We don't know what they did to him." He said, "So the other one is still free." He said, "Yo, you know what, man? Check it out." He said, he said, I'm getting ready to blow your mind." And I said, "Really?" He said, wait right here. He gets up and he goes where the party is going on, because we're in like the dining room thing off to ourselves, just talking. He comes back with these two sisters who look like the proper term that people use is exotical. So they was black and they were something else.
Mm.
And I don't remember if it was George or Larry, but he said this is his daughters. He said, yeah, they attend school at the University of Houston or something.
Wow.
Yeah. He said that's what happened to them. So the first part of that's what happened with Bunchy and John Huggins, and the guy who actually killed them, if I'm remembering the story correctly, he was a police informant. He was a member of us. He was a police informant or something like that. I'm not all that conversant with us's history. Not, but I know a brother by the name of Scott Brown. He did
Mhm.
his doctoral dissertation on us. Now that was the first part. What was the rest of the question? That Elaine was
Um,
around or something like that.
yeah,
Um,
she was sleeping with the male members of the Black Panther Party.
yeah. Well, let me say this, and this is a joke. That this is what she said from the stage when I brought her out. She says, "Yeah, they all say that I slept my way to the top of the Black Panther Party." And Huey had said this thing about Elaine. He said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. I know y'all don't want Elaine to be in charge. Y'all say that Elaine's a bitch." He said, "But what you fail to factor in is she my bitch." Okay,
Woo.
meaning that he's able to control Elaine. Okay, Huey's still in control of the party, but she told this. She said this from the stage. She said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah. They say that I slept my way to the top of the Black Panther Party." She said, "Do you know what that really means?" And the crowd was like, the kids they were just sitting there. She said, "That mean I got the baddest pussy in California." Because Huey fucked half the bitches in Cali and Eldridge fucked the other half. So if I won that competition, I got the baddest pussy in California. That's what she said.
Wow.
So I can't, I can't say anything other than that. That's a direct quote of what she said when she came out to speak. And I'm sure she meant it as a joke or what have you, but that's what she said.
Good Lord.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when you're talking about the murder of Bunchy Carter and John Huggins, because that begins the deadly lethal fight within Black Power organizations. You have us members who are killing Panthers, and then eventually you're going to get a situation where you're going to have Panthers turning on other Panthers and killing them. So it turns ugly.
Mm, mm, mm. Wow. I want to take this time out real quick to welcome Jughead to the program. 77.
Welcome,
Peace and blessings, bro.
welcome.
We're glad you're checking in all the way from the UK. We also got Earth Angel Remix. Peace and blessings, Queen. We're glad you're here. We also have Brother Willie Rivers. Peace and blessings, Brother Willie. We are definitely glad you are here. And again, our topic that we're talking about tonight is from Die Nigger Die to Jamil.
You know that
Revolution.
that title of his book. If you read it, and he says that he titled it "Die Nigga Die" because that's what white people keep telling him to do. Yeah, that and who was it that let's say it was? Oh man, who titled that? Was it? I'm gonna find the title. This is Julius Lester. He published a book titled "Look Out, Whitey! Black Power's Gonna Get Your Mama." Yeah, yeah, that's one of the greatest titles of a book ever. You
Mm,
know,
mm, mm, mm. Wow. And so with
there you,
oh,
there you
let
go,
me
right
see.
there.
Okay.
Look out, Whitey! Black Power's gonna get your mama. Yeah.
Wow. Mm, mm, mm. And so with H-Rap coming in, taking over for Stokely, it is said that he finished the final push of getting all the white folks out of Essence SNCC.
Not a snick.
Uh, so what was the process? Did he just say, "Oh, y'all hit the door"?
Well, I mean, you make it so uncomfortable for them. Many white folk left SNCC in '65. You have to think that during James Meredith, the first Negro to integrate Ole Miss,
Mhm,
James Meredith's March Against Fear. That's when Willie Mukasa Ricks, is going to debut the Black Power slogan in Greenwood, which is
mhm,
SNCC territory. The Just imagine being white there and having the idea of nonviolent civil disobedience and interracialism, and we, the beloved community, we're going to work this thing out, black and white together, and here these Negroes up here talking about black power.
mhm.
Hey ho, whitey gotta go. That was one of the slogans that they started saying. So you have to you got to just think how uncomfortable that had to be for them, and also the fact that white folk got their own issues, political issues. For white boys, despite what people like to think, the white boys, they did have their own political issue, and that issue was Vietnam. The
Mm,
average, the average age of a soldier killed in Vietnam was 19.
mm,
White women, their issue is they're trying to get out from under the thumb of white men. So they come up with this idea of feminism. Then you got the LGBTQ that's going on. All of these groups were trained up, even Black Power, they're trained up through the civil rights movement. Make
mm.
no mistake about it. But when Black Power debuted, you can almost look at it as somebody threw a grenade inside of the movement. And when it exploded, everybody got sent to the four corners of the world. And they're now participating in identity politics. What
Mm,
is it that's important to you? And out of all of this, and I'm sure Black women will appreciate this, out of all of it, Black women are the ones who get left behind,
mm,
because Black women are going to find out very quickly that they are too Black to be a part of the general women's movement. The demand for them to be a part of feminism or the general women's movement is for you to not bring up race. And so,
mm.
what type of movement can you have representing Black women if they can't talk about the Black side of them? And
Exactly.
conversely, they're too female to be central to the idea of the African American freedom struggle, and they're
Mm,
going to be left behind in regards to that. Look at what Elaine Brown said in that first page. Is
mm.
she not fashioning herself as a masculine leader?
Exactly.
Because she
Exactly.
knows that if she shows any quote unquote femininity, any weakness whatsoever, they're gonna pounce on her. So
Mm,
she's got to play the role and replicate herself as a man.
right.
Black women are going to catch hell dealing with the women's movement and the feminist movement. They're going to catch hell dealing with the African American freedom struggle, with Black Power, even, because you're they're falling through, and they always seem to fall through a crack, and
Hmm.
that crack is you're too Black to be over here with the women, and you're too female to be over here with the Black movement. because there is this expectation that Black women in particular will tell you is a figment of people's imagination. And that expectation is if Black men are saved, Black men will be saved as well. And we also don't talk about the fact that even within the African American freedom struggle, the LGBTQ, the gay community, they're central players in the Black movement. Baird Rustin, Asa Philip Randolph, James Baldwin, Barbara Jordan. The list goes on and on and on and on.
Right.
But they're going to have to do in many ways what the demand is for Black women, and it is you got to go along with the general Black agenda, even if it's not in your benefit. At least Black folk will be saved, and of course they're talking about Black men.
Right. Wow. And that's something. That is something. So also in the book that he wrote,
They got that brother hemmed up, don't they?
They sure do.
Got that brother hemmed up.
They sure do. And going through and understanding what he was talking about, the core thesis of the book, Brown argues that violence is backed and is a component of American life. Violence is as American as cherry pie. And that the white power structure is inherently violent towards Black people economically, legally, and physically. Therefore, nonviolence is a form of suicide. And of course, Dr. King boys and them would definitely disagree. But there was a point, Doc, where King was doing an interview in the church. And the interviewer was asking him about, nonviolence versus violence, and that, Black people are booing you, and saying that they don't want to be nonviolent, that they understand that violence is necessary. And looking at that video, that was a hard thing for King to have to admit, that this nonviolence is really not working. The tone of the Black people is, no, you hit us, we ready to hit you back. And so with that being said, the American government's response to Black people saying, okay, you hit us and we're going to break your jaw. Was that even considered when they were coming out with the violence talk?
Was what you lost me there at the end?
Yeah, was white people, did HRAP and them consider what the response of white people will be to Black people saying, it's going to be an eye for an eye?
No, because what could they do to us that they ain't done already? That's where rap them are at. Okay, what you scared? Like Stokely said, all the scared Negroes is dead. Okay, so no, they're not even considering that. You have to think about what the mindset is, especially when you're coming out of when you took over SNCC. Ella Baker has this very interesting idea about leadership. She refers to it as decentralized leadership. She says it's fine if you have a national spokesperson, but you need a board of about 15 people who are going to define the direction. And think about it almost as a wheel, okay, where you have 15 decision makers. Okay, you'll arrive at a consensus and you'll keep going. She said the danger of having centralized leadership is what you're going to see happen with SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. What happens to them if King is killed? And what ends up happening when King is killed, they turn in on each other because people want to go ahead and assume the leadership position. Ralph Abernathy, King's best friend, Abernathy said, well, Martin must have known it was coming, because last night at dinner, he pulled me to the side and said, Ralph, if anything ever happened to me, I want you to take over SCLC. And the other preachers was like, Ralph, you're lying. He didn't tell you that last night. Okay, and and SCLC was never the same once King was struck down. Just never the
Mm,
same, and couldn't be the same.
right.
Versus looking at a SNCC, John Lewis leaves out, SNCC keeps going. Stokely leaves out, SNCC keeps going, and that's what Ella Baker was talking about. However, you have to you have to factor in the changes in the movement, black folk being tired, okay, because nonviolent civil disobedience is not working, and yet you still got white folk who are in leadership positions within,
Mm,
and you got this Negro as the head of it. It
mm,
ain't gonna last long. Those that still trying to hold on, trying to, nah, you're gonna be made to feel so unwelcome that you're gonna leave on your own and go
mm,
on and pick up a different political issue, a different political agenda, because the race thing has in many ways failed.
mm. Wow. And it's a the critique of Negro America. Brown sharply distinguished between Negro America, the assimilationist, the middle class element seeking integration, and Black America, the revolutionary element recognizing the fundamental contradictions between themselves and the American system. So the name, he emphasized the term Black is a political statement of self acceptance and defiance. At the same time, Negro is the label of compliance and subservience given by the oppressor. And it's interesting how that tone, President Trump used it in his first term in office. He said, for the African Americans, meaning the Negro Americans, I got tax cuts for you.
Mhm.
For Black people, I got something else for you. Clear delineation
Mhm.
between African Americans, Negro Americans, Blacks. You know, um, what's your thoughts of that at that time when H. Rap wrote about it in his book, to even to the time where Donald Trump espoused the difference and saying, "This is I got this for you."
Well, it's about access, and what is your ultimate goal and your outlook. If your ultimate goal and outlook is to live a lukewarm life,
Mhm.
a humdrum life, where you may be able to purchase a home, a car, take care of your family, and what have you, but you're going to always have to do it from a position of subservience. If that's for you, then that's what it is for you. And then you have this other thing, which is quite simply, you're not going to go along with anything that the dominant society is doing. They're going to make you pay for that. And I don't care if you're talking about World War One, the Red Summer of 1919, the Great Depression, what have you. Being black and poor in America comes at a cost, and it's an enormous cost. You're going to die before anyone else from health issues, from stress, all those types of things. That's what's coming for you because you're not willing to go along and do what, and once again, my analysis is not just racial, but do what good working class people do, which is learn how to integrate yourself into the system in some way so you can be of some use or some utility to some people who are by and large going to be exploiting you. So the idea of blackness with what rap is saying hasn't changed at all. That there are some of us who understand that the adoption of the term black is undoubtedly a political statement. It is a declaration that lets the world know which side you are on
Mm,
versus some of these other articulations of being bourgeois and trying to integrate yourself into white society, into the white community, or being um, so outlandish that no one can take you seriously. Adopting one of my very good friends, Mario Martin, he coined this term when he sees brothers who are have their pants hanging down and looking all crazy. He calls it the look of the defeated. I don't look at those who have the look of the defeated as being black.
Mm,
There's something else.
mm,
Just like I don't necessarily look like, and I don't say that the bourgeoisie, those who are aspiring for middle class status, those who want a BMW and feel as if they made it once they get there, I don't necessarily look at them as being black either, because there isn't much about their worldview, their ideas, their goals, and their aspirations that is aimed at liberating black folk or even considering the masses of black folk in regards to what it is they do and what they believe.
mm. Wow. Very, 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 very interesting. And it's like more and more black folks are understanding the delineation between the black person and the nigger.
Yeah, but
Where,
yeah, but I mean the thing is that it's one thing to understand the delineation between those two. So another thing to live that walk. I see so many people who can even espouse the lingo and things like that, but when it comes down to it, what are your results?
Mhm,
What are you really trying to do? And
mhm,
what's happening far too often is that the black population is the population that's being left out.
mhm,
William Foster, one of the most brilliant brothers that I've ever encountered in my life. William Foster said this about being a black writer. He's a writer. He writes about economics. And writers, black writers in particular, are able to see the world through the same lens because we kind of live the same, kind of live similar lives. And he says, being a black writer is the loneliest job in the world
mm,
because we're alone. When we do what we do, we have to be alone to think about what we're going to do. We need time alone. And very few of our people even read. So in many ways, you're out there by yourself. And I think that we have a black populace, a black class that is in many ways out there on their own. You're going to be denounced and ostracized by the black bourgeoisie,
mhm,
and you're going to be maligned, vilified, attacked by the negress. And it's a tough position to be in, very tough position to be in because you in many ways realize that you don't fit with most people.
mm,
And that exacerbates your, I know for me it exacerbates my proclivity to be with myself. And
mhm,
I'm to the point now where I wouldn't even have a cell phone if these people who say, well, man, I might need to contact you. If I didn't have that going, then I wouldn't even have a cell phone. I live a life of peace.
mm. Definitely, definitely. All right, Earth Angel, we understand,
Believe me, we
but we're definitely glad that you did stop through if you fall asleep.
and good night if you do fall asleep.
Okay, so Doc, I went out and I got five questions. Five
Oh,
questions from the other folks. All right,
the
not
other
our
folk,
folks, the other folks.
oh,
Yes,
the other folk.
about the book "Die Nigger Die,"
Okay,
and so I'm gonna give them to you one at a time and see how you would answer these questions.
okay.
First question: the title of the book "Die Nigger Die" sounds like a direct threat or a call for black self-destruction. Why does he choose such a provocative title? And isn't it a call to violence counterproductive to social progress?
No, it's not a call to violence. Um, it's not counter revolutionary. It's not. It's not any of those things that this person is thinking about. As I said earlier, the title to the book, Die Nigga Die, is what rap says white folk keep telling him. Okay. So it's certainly not any of those things that this person is reading into it. And it's actually a very interesting exercise because it says more about the person who's interpreting it than it'll ever say about rap because they have
Mm.
no idea what rap actually meant. So it's not a call to violence. It's not any of those things. He's just letting you know what white folk have said to him repeatedly. Die nigga die.
Mm. Definitely, definitely. So the next question. SNCC started out as a student-led nonviolent organization that included white members.
Mhm.
Why did Brown, along with Stokely Carmichael, push SNCC to expel the white members and adopt an all-black policy? Wasn't that racism at its finest?
Okay. Do you want to answer the why or isn't it racism? Is it
Isn't it racism? Because I think we've already went over the why.
okay? No, it's not racism at its finest. The truth of the matter is that far too often as a black person, you are damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. If you don't break away and build something for you and your own so that you guys can be a contributor to society, you are called lazy, you're called grifters, opportunists and what have you. But if you try to break away, at least for even a period of time, a season or two, to develop black businesses, to develop the black community, to clean up the black community, you're going to be criticized for that as well. So you're off base in regards to thinking that this is about a separation to harm and disrespect anyone else in the nation. You have to remember that America is in many ways like a sports car. Let's say it's a V8. Well, if black folk are not, if every ethnic and racial group in America is not running at its optimal, you're not driving a V8, you're driving a V3, a V2, a V4. And it's in the nation's best interest for black folk to be thriving.
Mm.
Lord knows that if we thrive within our community, it's definitely going to boost up the economy because we tend to spend pretty much everything that comes through our hands. So, nah, I would disagree with that.
Definitely. Question 3. H. Rap Brown was a Marxist-leaning, militant political figure.
Mhm.
How does his later conversion to a disciplined Sunni Muslim cleric, Imam Jamil Abdullah Al-Amin, logically follow? Did he renounce his revolutionary past?
If he renounces his revolutionary path, I'm always reminded of one of the greatest quotes. It's probably my favorite quote. Cassius Clay, Muhammad Ali. Ali says, "If you show me a man who believes at 50 what he believed at 30, and I'll show you a man who wasted 20 years of his life." We have to continue to grow. We have to continue to refine what it is that we think. You should be reading more. You should be thinking more. You should be, you might as well go ahead and die if you're not growing anymore. One of the
Mm.
most beautiful things that we have with W.E.B. Du Bois is that he never stopped moving intellectually. He tried this, he tried that, he tried everything.
Mhm.
Okay. And I think that that's what we all should be doing. We all should be reevaluating. I'm certainly not the same now as I was at the age of 20. Certainly not.
Mhm.
I've had life experiences. I've read more. I've studied more. I've thought more about certain things, and I have some very interesting. I would love to have a conversation with me from where I am right now with the 20-year-old me to
Definitely.
see what that would be like. That would be something I would pay to
Mm.
hear that conversation, because 20-year-old me, look, yeah, he was a bad boy. Bad boy. He was brash. He was liable to say anything.
Mhm.
Had no concern for anybody. I remember, and you'll know exactly where this came from. I got into it in a class, undergraduate class, with a brother. I still remember his name for some reason. His name is Arsenal Macklin. I've never
Mm.
forgotten his name. Arsenal Macklin. It's one thing for you to say something, like you can say something out in the public sphere without saying a person's name,
Mhm.
but it's so specific that they know you talking about them.
Mhm.
That's one level. It's a whole nother level if you say James. And if you say James, I'm gonna respond. Okay.
Mhm.
In many ways, kind of like Bobby Boucher, the water boy. Say something, I'm gonna get you. Like how he would say 52. He gonna get 52 before this game is over. Arsenal Macklin said, "Well, I want to direct this to James. The reason that I don't, and he was talking about something. I don't even remember what his point was, but I do remember what I said back, because Arsenal was one of those black Christians that I hated. And I said, you want to know why I don't talk to you black Christians at all? I won't even worship with you, because you worship a hunkified, punkified, sissified, homogenized, buttermilk complexion white cracker that you have misnamed as Jesus instead of the black revolutionary that I read about in my Bible.
Mm.
Khalid Abdul Muhammad on the Donahue,
Mhm.
you know, and that, I would like to talk to that cat and see if I can talk that cat down, because he was far out there, and I mean
Mm, mm,
far out
mm,
there, right, righteous in public and unrighteous as can be in private.
mhm,
That was who I was.
mm, mm, mm. Definitely, yeah. I definitely would love to have that conversation with my younger self as well.
Yeah.
Definitely. Mhm. Wow. All right. Question 4. Given that this book was written during the civil rights and Black Power era, what is the specific relevance of his text today when we have Black mayors and more political representation?
Well, I'll guarantee you, if you were to talk to the black mayors in private, they would tell you that the white constituents are saying "die nigga die" to them to this very day. So the relevance is, quite simply, it is a historical document that captures a specific moment in time. This
Mhm.
idea of black liberation is directly associated with the founding of this nation. You can't look at the founding of America and not see white folk basically saying "die nigga die." Even
Mhm.
Thomas Jefferson, he believes that all men are created equal, yet he was a slaveholder.
Mhm.
So at the same time that you're seeing black folk having to fight for black folk had to fight for the right to even exist at the poor state that they've been able to exist. So rap's story, rap's words are quite simply another brick in that wall of black liberation. And let's be very, very clear that you can't, on the one hand, who's the cat that wrote the song that I refuse. There are two songs I will never sing in my life. Okay, one of them is that Negro James Weldon Johnson's um,
If
"The
Gary
Dearest."
Morrison sing,
I will never sing that in my life.
why?
Uh, John Newton. And I'm not no Negro, okay?
Mhm.
And I can tell you sing it, because you talk, you definitely a Negro uh, around here, and probably only know the first stanza, because by the time the second stanza come around, everybody in the room is humming it. Y'all got the melody, but y'all don't know the words to the second stanza, okay, at all. But John Newton and the idea of Amazing Grace, he wrote Amazing Grace.
Right.
I'll never sing Amazing Grace.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, on the one hand, talk about how beautiful a story it is for John Newton to be a slaveholder and for him to come into the light and now, God's grace, amazing grace that saved a sinner like me.
Right.
You can't celebrate that. You can't celebrate the the transformation of Saul to the apostle Paul,
Mm-hmm.
these stories of redemption without being able to tip your hat at H. Rap Brown, who goes from talking about die nigga die to being a religious man, a gun carrying religious man, but a religious man nonetheless.
Mm. Wow, interesting. And then also too, Doc, I think people don't realize that even though in political offices faces change, people's change, but the structure remains the same.
Yes.
And as long as that structure is there, nothing is going to change. And it seems to me that a lot of them are okay with that structure.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's a whole different level. There's the great saying that ignorance is bliss really applies to Americans when it comes to politics. You're seeking to, in many ways, tweak the system. You may disagree with them raising your property taxes, but for Black folk who are politically conscious and aware, there's pretty much not much about the system that we would not wish to discard.
Mhm.
Maybe pave roads and stoplights. But other than that, because you're in many ways, and this is one of the scariest things that causes blindness with the interjection of race. Y'all ain't happy either.
Mm.
Let's be honest about it. Y'all ain't happy either. And if y'all were happy with the way the system is, you'd be fine with being destitute right now because that's the American way. But what we find so often is the magnification of Blackness. That if Black folks say something, it's more concentrated and it's going to be magnified. You're not going to support it because of who the messenger was. And that's why the idea of issuing what amounts to as derogatory statements of he's a Marxist, he's a Leninist, he's a socialist.
Mhm.
Yet at the exact same time, you're sitting around here hoping that you get a stimulus check. If that ain't socialism, I don't know what it is.
I definitely agree with that. And so the last question says, after reading the book, I feel a great deal of guilt about the
Mhm,
historical treatment of Black people. As a
mhm.
white person, what am I supposed to do with the truth that Brown lays out?
What are you supposed to do with it? You're supposed to recognize that Black folk are human and that this is a nation that by and large was built upon their backs and has flourished at the same rate that they have suffered. Your awareness and your understanding should transfer into you being less racist, less prejudiced, less bigoted, and understand what it is that happened to these people because something major happened to these people. But the thing that ends up muting that, turning it off for most people is hell, I'm struggling too. And so the history really doesn't matter when you're
Mm,
struggling.
mm. Wow. So, Doc, what about, because, where Malcolm said, if I could have get the little girl, the white girl that he said, no, you can't do nothing.
Nothing.
And many other people talks about that their role as a white, quote unquote, ally is to dismantle the white power structure within their sphere of influence.
Mm.
Um, why is that not something that they should automatically know this is my job to do?
Because they ain't gonna do it. I mean, come on, man. We can sit around here. We sit around here and hope that some unicorn's gonna jump up with $200 million in a satchel that they're gonna give. That ain't gonna happen. People are not going to cut off their oxygen supply, okay, for you to be able to breathe. It's not going to happen. It has never happened. It never will happen. Just tell the truth. Tell the truth that when we're talking about this situation of America, a capitalist nation, money means something. And if you're able to find an easier path to that money, you might as well take it. And that's just what it is. The idea, I mean, think about the hippies of the 1960s. What happened to them? Did a UFO come down and get them? No. UFO didn't come down and get them. They inherited their daddy's business. So now instead of talking about social programs that are going to be predicated upon taxing businesses at such a high rate, now you got different interests. No, don't tax this. No. What I'll be able to do, I'm gonna kick them down a little something. But no, we don't, no. Their situation changed. And for me, I have this term that I use about inefficiency. I'm talking about inefficiency and how people waste time. I call it mental masturbation, where you sit around here and you pontificate and you hypothesize about things, what have you, but you knew from the very beginning all the way to the end that you hadn't producing nothing that was significant. You're going to produce wasted water. Now, it feels good when you do it, and you can do it with other people. But from the beginning to the end, you knew you wasn't trying to create nothing. So these ideas about white people dismantling the white power structure, yeah, okay. I refuse to have them type of conversations with people because you know that ain't gonna happen. If black folk were on the top, would black people dismantle the power structure?
I would hope not.
See, you would hope not. What what about fairness? What about colorblindness? What about, if black folk were on top, like Chris Rock said it in one of his stand-ups, he said, with all the benefits that white folk have had, he said, if I take a test and white boy take a test and we end up with the same score, fuck them. I should be able to, would we give up? Come on, man. Come on. But then again, black folk might very well be crazy enough to do that.
Exactly. And so, Doc, then we come to the position of the Anti-Riot Act, what they would call the H. Brown law that they came up with. And the law makes it a federal crime for a person to travel interstate commerce or use facilities of interstate commerce like the mall, the telegraph, the telephone, or the radio with the specific intent to incite, organize, promote, encourage, participate in, or carry on a riot, commit any act of violence in furtherance of a riot, aid or abet any person in committing these acts. A riot is generally defined in the law as public disturbance involving an act of violence by three or more people that pose a clear and present danger of injury or property damage. Now, I don't know of another Black figure that had a law like this made in their name. Did he scare white America more than any other Black person at that time?
I don't know if he scared them more, but what I will give rap is that rap was able to put some words together that would amplify people's fear. You had to already be fearful
Mm-hmm.
far down that road for what rap was saying. He's calling for revolution. He's calling for the, and there's a paranoia, and a part of that paranoia flows from white guilt, white fear that black folk are going to do to them what they've done to us. And so if you already have that in your mindset, then yeah, what rap is saying is going to be terrifying for you. Now, did rap
Mm.
have any army, any organization where he could just point and black folk would go crazy? No, he didn't have that.
Mm.
But you have to also think that with H. Rap Brown being so prominent in regards to the American media, what better way for you to get some points within an American populace than creating a bill like that aimed at such a notable figure?
Mm.
So that you could come out and basically say, yeah, I went after that rap. Yeah, he ain't gonna be rapping no more. So you have that type of thing going on as well, a little
Mm.
political gamesmanship, so to speak.
Mm. Wow. So, and it continues, the context of suppression. The law was passed during a period of massive civil unrest following the assassination of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, and amid urban uprising across the country. It was a key legislative tool used alongside FBI's COINTELPRO operation to disrupt and dismantle Black political movements.
Mhm.
Weaponizing intent. The law is notoriously controversial because it criminalizes intent and speech rather than just action. To secure a conviction, the government must prove not only that a person crossed state lines or used interstate communication, but that they did so with the specific intent to incite a riot and then performed an overt act in furtherance of that attempt. Now, as I was reading that, Doc, the thing came to my mind was, well, damn, did you apply this law to the January 6th
No,
people?
no, that's no, and see that leads me back to the idea of why even talk about something like that? Because the answer is no. You know that they're not going to do that, and it in many ways proves that justice ain't blind. She can see very well. At least she can see color. There's no doubt about that. And when you're talking about legislating speech and you're talking about legislating, going so far as to talk about intent,
Mhm.
where the American patriots at?
Mm.
Where these constitutionalists at? Which leads you to the idea, to the belief that quite simply they don't really believe that stuff that they're saying. What they're doing is they're utilizing these sparse, inconsistent, erratic moments to advance a political agenda that has nothing to do with the land of the free or the home of the brave. It's what they do,
Mhm.
what they're going to continue to do.
Mhm. Exactly. And I found out that the only people that were even charged under this law was the Chicago Eight.
Yeah, and that takes me back to the fact that they
Exactly.
ain't all black.
Exactly.
This is a
Hmm.
political game,
Hmm.
and hell, Bobby Seale shouldn't have
Mm-mm.
been there. Bobby Seale, Bobby Seale is on trial with people for conspiracy with people he ain't never
Hmm.
met. You don't have a conspiracy and you ain't never met the
Mm-mm.
person before, but they'll keep you. that to the idea they're not interested in freedom and justice at all. They're interested in winning.
Mhm.
And if malicious prosecution will get them closer to a win, then they'll do it. If I didn't know any better, I would say that that the unofficial mantra of Americans is, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Because the idea of decency, respect is gone. And that's not racially specific.
Definitely, definitely. And so, of course, our brother died in prison, in the prison hospital. After he was in jail the first time and he accepted Islam as a Sunni Muslim, as we stated before. And then something happened with a deputy being shot or killed in Atlanta, because he moved to Atlanta and started his own Muslim community in West Atlanta, for what I'm understanding. We got a short video that I want to share, and it goes over part of that.
Imam Jamil's spirit and faith in Allah remains remarkably high.
And every time I talk to him, without fail, he gets on the phone, he says, "Assalamu alaikum," and then how to systemically organize. I think that Islam, combined with his civil rights work, created the man that he ultimately became. He zealously was outspoken against the Bosnian genocide. He advocated for the liberation of the Palestinian people. Not only is eloquent in his speech.
Because again, the whole sense of ignorance does not exist individually. Ignorance is an organized force, and it has to be combated in that manner with a force of enlightenment.
Not only has extensive knowledge and understanding of this deen and of the seerah and of the prophetic way.
The Prophet, peace and blessing upon him, Allah commanded upon him salat 5 times a day, prayer. Allah said, for it is prayer that restrains, that keeps you from evil behavior. It is prayer that begins to check your motivation toward dunya.
But this is to me, a giant in our midst. This is a man who laid the foundation for the Muslim community, for all of the Muslim national organizations, whether they want to admit it or not. MashaAllah, like, he is a brilliant, brilliant man who understands how systems intertwine, and he can see the full picture and figure out how to empower a community. Like, he knows how to do this. So
the first revelation that came to him, it didn't deal with in terms of rumbling and thumping against the Quraysh. It dealt with it says to recite in the name of thy Lord, who has created man from a clot of congealed blood.
After being released from prison in 1976, Imam Jamil moved to the West End neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia.
We've been in the same place. The key to establishment of any community is the establishment of prayer.
He built a rapport with the surrounding neighbors and helped create a secure environment.
Is keeping the West End safe, to the point that you had, there was one elderly lady, she's passed on now, but she commented that she wouldn't come out unless she saw a Muslim standing up there on the corner by the Imam store. And so you had women who may have been victims of domestic violence. They run down the street to the Imam store, or they'll see a brother, they run to the mosque or run to the brother for protection.
He was a threat.
Even while away from national spotlight, the government kept their eyes on him, generating 44,000 documents on him from 1992 to 1997. On March 16, 2000, they succeeded in his arrest.
A man who pulled up in a Mercedes near Al-Amin's house opened fire, killing Deputy Ricky Kinchin. Authorities found Al-Amin in Whitehall, Alabama after a 4-day manhunt and hauled him in to face a charge of murder.
The jury find the defendant guilty.
The more you dive into this case, the more revealing it is as to just how much the rules don't apply to him,
In federal court briefs, they say jurors overlooked eyewitness testimony that Al-Amin was not responsible for the shooting. Statements by both deputies that they had shot their assailant, though Al-Amin had not been shot.
A man named Otis Jackson confessed to the crime.
There is corroborating evidence to support this confession. It's not just an empty confession. Yes, Otis will scream and jump and, wave his hands in the air like, listen to me.
You had committed a murder and were involved in the shooting of a cop in March of 2000 in Atlanta, Georgia.
Yes.
You did?
Yes.
All right. You weren't arrested for it, were you?
No, sir, I was not.
In fact, another person was tried and convicted.
Jamil Al-Amin, yes, sir.
The Otis Jackson meets the physical description. So both officers, one of the officers was unfortunately, he died in the incident. The other one was injured, but they both gave the description of the assailant as being 5'9" with cold gray eyes. Imam Jamil, like I said to you, it's towering 6'5". You can't miss him. Towering 6'5", slender build, brown eyes.
In spite of his hardships in prison, including medical neglect, being transferred to a supermax prison in horrid conditions, being put in solitary confinement multiple times, and not being able to speak to reporters, Imam Jamil's spirit and faith in Allah remains remarkably high.
And every time I talk to him, without fail, he gets on the phone, he says, "Assalamu alaikum," and then he says, "Do you need anything?" But if it's not his second line, it's his third line. And his first line is, "How are you and the family?" And then he says, "Do you need anything?" Right? And as a community, we have really acted from a place of fear rather than courage. And the people abandoned him. But we need more people to care. And we need more people not to think, oh, what am I going to do? Do what you can. He's just always concerned, always, and always thankful. And there is no doubt in my mind this is a servant of God. And in serving him, we're serving somebody that's beloved to God. There is no doubt in my mind. And this really is a special human being. He's a different kind of soul.
When Muslims begin to tell their own story, when Muslims begin to use the Quran and deal with the character in which Allah says is a character of righteousness, as opposed to a character of wickedness. When they begin to identify Pharaoh as a character as opposed to an ancient figure. When Islam becomes real to us, when we begin to practice in a manner that is pleasing to Allah, it will eclipse any lie that they will put out there. They won't be able to tell people what Muslims are because Muslims will represent what Islam is. But this is only based upon practice, for Allah says he will not change the condition of people until they change that which is in themselves. We're not so much outnumbered, we are out-practiced. Yeah.
All right. And that was our dear brother. And it's very interesting. I would have thought that if he was going to join Islam, I would have thought he would have joined the Nation of Islam. But he goes straight to the Sunni Islam. What's your thoughts on that? Did he not have a good relationship with the nation during that time?
You know what? I don't know what his relationship was with the Nation of Islam. He actually ends up converting while he's incarcerated. And so, it could be a situation where they're the ones that got to him. You get what I'm saying? Sort of first, that could be the answer, when you're looking at it. And I say this about a lot of people who become religious converts. Whichever life raft reaches them first is the one that they're going to grab a hold to. And they grab a hold of that one, and it's going to be very difficult for you to get them to let that go if you present them with a alternative to what it is that they're having to deal with. If this is what's keeping me afloat, I'm afraid in many ways to let it loose and to deal with it that way. And then also let's be very clear that he would have been really exposed to the Nation of Islam
Mhm.
movement, especially when you're talking about Malcolm. So he would have
Mhm.
known very well about the nation. Now, as to why he chose to go Sunni, I don't know. That's something that you would have to ask him.
Mm. Wow. Do you feel as though with who he was back in the day that maybe his attorney didn't tap into the good deeds that he did for Black people and trying to organize some type of rally or movement to
You
help
know,
him?
I don't see the Muslim H. Rap Brown as being much different from the SNCC Black Power Rap Brown. Because when
Mm.
you look at what it is that both of them are actually doing, they're focused upon uplifting and building a Black community. That
Mhm.
stays consistent. Now, as far as his attorney and what he could have done, I don't know. I don't know. And you would have to ask yourself if by the 80s, the late 80s,
Mhm.
are these do people even know who rap is?
Right.
I think that those who are conversant in Black Power politics, we know who H. Rap Brown is.
Mhm.
We know his history, his background, some of the things that he's done. But the common layperson, would they know who rap is? No, not at all. It's one of those. I want to say I put it almost at 10 years, and a part of
Mm.
it for me is almost putting it at wants to say, well, it's did it happen in their lifetime? Because I find that Black folk have a very short memory in
Mm.
regards to history and how this history impacts them and affects them on a daily basis.
Mhm. Definitely. Do you think that for his time that he was H-Rap, that he actually served the condition of our people the best way that he knew?
Yes, I can say that unequivocally. Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yes. He was doing the best that he knew how to do, and in his defense, let's be very honest, he achieved quite a bit.
Mhm.
The Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee is that bridge from civil rights
Mhm.
to Black Power. Nobody else, no other organization can lay claim to that, and rap is a major part of that. And for him to eventually get to a point where he's getting is you have to tip your hat to him. You really do.
Definitely. And by them being all under the or under attack by COINTELPRO,
Uh-huh.
and with Dr. King, unfortunately, it brung up his, extramarital affairs or whatever. But with these people, nothing like that has come up. What does that say about them?
That they live the lives that they claim to live in private the same way they did in public. Yeah, that's what it would say. But there's a lot of things that happen within the movement that has never been publicized. And you would literally have to talk to people who were there, about what occurred. There's a lot of that, a whole lot of it. And then you wind up, and I always use this as an example, sort of the Emmett Till case that to this day we're still arguing about if he said bye baby or did he whistle. And the source of that is his cousin, who we have interviews of his cousin saying both things. On some interviews he says, oh, he said bye baby. Other times he says no, he whistled. So the idea of being able to really hammer down rap's legacy is, and what was occurring with the counterintelligence program, there's something that needs to be said about the sharing of false information. And if we can say that there's something that needs to be said about the sharing of false information, we also have to consider the possibility that there are some things that could have sunk some people, and they weren't sunk because they were a part of a larger plan or operation to get somebody else.
Wow. Yeah, we're going to go ahead and move to our closing comments. And in your closing comments, Doc, if you could have a talk with the God and you was H-Rap's advocate of him getting into paradise, what would that conversation between you and the God be like?
I would tell God, listen, you made this Negro this way. So you cannot really blame him. You know what you placed inside of him. Okay. And I have no interest whatsoever in seeing H-Rap end up in trouble in heaven. So the best thing that you could do is to put him in a role where he spoke, because the brother is going to talk regardless. He can't shut up. Okay. He's a righteous man who has reached out to help people throughout his entire life, and he should certainly be embraced fully. And once again, put the brother near Mike and let him talk.
Definitely. You have any other closing comments, Doc?
No, not really, man. I enjoyed this dealing with H-Rap Brown. I really enjoyed the questions. I thought that was slick. I hope we can do more of that.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, just to see all of these cats for me that I studied for years and years and years, to see them going on to be with the ancestors, it gives me it refocuses me and recenters me, but it also humbles me, because I'm getting to that point where, and this is a conversation I had with my sister a couple of years back when several of my aunts had passed in succession. And I told her, I said, you do understand that when they go, there's no buffer as far as our family goes between us and the grave, that we'll be up next. And so just as, Rap did, I would just encourage people that while you're here and you're able to do it, go for yours. Shoot for the stars.
Definitely. Thanks, Doc. And my little closing that I'm going to say about our brother as we conclude our discussion on the revolutionary journey of H-Rap Brown to Imam Jamil Al-Amin. The lesson for us, the members of the Black First Initiative and our people, is clear. Revolution is not a moment of militant rage. It is a lifetime of disciplined commitment. H-Rap showed us the fire needed to resist a violent, oppressive system. He taught us that violence is as American as cherry pie. And when the system fails to secure justice for Black people, we must, by any means necessary, secure it for ourselves. But Imam Jamil showed us the foundation. He taught us the greatest struggle, the greater jihad, is the one that we fight within ourselves. We cannot win the war against external enemies if we are corrupted by self-doubt, dishonesty, and disunity. We must do as we always say, kill the nigger within ourselves. We have to accept that our life on this planet is not dictated by our enemies, but it is dictated by the desires that we have within ourselves. So let us do the right thing, not just for a moment in time, but each day of the time that we have left on this planet. And so with that, we're going to go ahead and close out. Doctor, you got anything else you would like to add?
No, you know what? No, I don't, man. I'm just glad to be here, man. Glad to see another week, man.
Definitely, definitely. All right. And we thank everybody that stayed awake and stayed with us this time while we go through our program. And as we say always, you kill the nigger in you, I'm going to kill the nigger in me, and our God will reign supreme. We are Black first, today, tomorrow, and forever. Love you, family. Peace and blessings. Assalamu alaikum. Shalom.
You better get the message and get it straight. You're going to need some bridge work.